Welcome to Change the Narrative. I'm your host, JD Fuller, an African-American, licensed psychotherapist, professor, diversity coach, consultant, and author. We talk about the isms. We talk about the phobias, anything that marginalizes and oppresses. Everything we are not and everything we are is because of fear. Through a mental health lens, we'll have difficult conversations with celebrity guests, political activists, and everyone in between. Our mind will tell us whatever we want to believe, but the truth lives in the body, and that's where change occurs. Are you ready to change the narrative?
Marvin Toliver is a licensed clinical social worker, born and raised in East Oakland, California. Marvin currently resides in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, working as a therapist with the Radical Therapy Center. He's also a co-founder of the mental health collective Melanated Social Work. Marvin is a queer bisexual Black creator, writer, consultant, public speaker, mentor, wedding officiant, and radical educator. He encourages others to see the power within themselves and use their voices to fight for justice. Marvin's work will be complete when white supremacy is dismantled and all Black people are liberated. Okay, so welcome back. And
Thank you.
Much more to explore. So I want to dive a little bit into your social media. It's funny because you post things that, particularly clinicians of the global majority, but hopefully most clinicians, it pops in their mind and they reflect on it. And I appreciate it. And it's not a lengthy, sort of diatribe. It's just those quick thoughts, which I just think is so smart. And you look at, how people are stigmatized. You look at how people have been pathologized, and then you throw it back in the face of the clinician, which I think is, again, super smart. So one of your social media posts, yeah, it invited social workers to reflect on where you've been. No, where you were, right? No, I'm saying it wrong. Where have you been? Okay. Where you are now and where you want to be. I almost screwed that up. Sorry about that. Yeah. Can you respond to that? Like, how would you respond to that yourself? Reflecting on where you've been, where you are, and where you want to be.
Yeah, where I've been, and I'm thinking about just the social work journey, and kind of thinking about even before Boston College of how I showed up in my own life as kind of a social worker, like an unofficial social worker, I'll say.
Oh no, we were all official before we got the degree.
Yeah, that's real. Thank you. That's real. Yeah, I mean, sitting in classrooms in Boston College, meeting the other three guys from Melanated Social Work and the other, phenomenal, Black and brown folks that I met through the Graduate Students of Color Association, not knowing what to do as a therapist, with my middle school student. I tried to do like 3 interventions in one session, when I first started. I'm like, cool, we did that, great. All right, what's next? So like I was very much like focused on hitting the boxes rather than like connecting with the client, right? And also being terrified. I'm like, I'm about to mess somebody's life up. How did they let me have this job? How did they let me? Yeah, so just thinking back about how, I would even say lost, like lost, but also kind of faking it till I made it back then. But still with this will to help and this will to just like assist clients or system, not like systems, but schools or organizations in whatever way that I could. When I think about now, it's still, mind-boggling to me that I've done some of these things that I've done. When I was sitting in grad school, I never thought that I'd be a guest on anyone's podcast, for that matter. That no one would be listening to me. I just, do my job and get my paycheck and go home and hopefully like take a vacation every now and again, right? And so, to think that I did a TEDx talk, to think that I was featured as a cycle breaker for, Oprah's Color of Care documentary, just that I just did a keynote and I'm doing more. Like it's every time I think that like I talk and people are listening to it is just that's never gonna get old. It's always gonna be weird to me, but I'm incredibly grateful for it. And just thinking about community and how community has really helped me develop into the person that I am, into the clinician, into the man that I am. How so many queer folks and how many Black women were really my support, were really my support. And then I think presently I'm just like, what next? What more can I do? I have a couple new projects in the works, so I'm excited about those. And so, yeah, that's what's happening present. Future, I don't want to work. That's the easiest one. I don't want to work. Easiest one. No working. Bills paid, passive income, no work.
Okay, that's clear. So another one of your posts said, imposter syndrome or internalized racism. I want to tweak that a little bit because my perspective, and I'm an elder, so I have a different lens, but my perspective is that, white bodies internalized racism. We internalize the impact of racism, which is internalized oppression and racial trauma.
Yeah.
Right. So if we look at it through that lens, I think it depends on what body you're in as to whether or not it's internalized racism or it's racial trauma. And so, does that make sense?
It wasn't internalized white supremacy.
Yeah. Yes. Right.
I mean, similar,
yeah.
like.
Yeah, no.
Similar is still following, but like.
Absolutely. And I guess that when I think of internalized white supremacy, I think of it in two different bodies, right? Brown and Black bodies is a racial trauma / internalized oppression. White bodies is more internalized racism, your lineage to enslavement. And then which is imposter syndrome, or is it a combination? Because that would make sense as well.
Well, I think, folks with white bodies also can have some marginalized identities, right? So white women are still women, right? Queer white men are still queer, right? And so there are certain spaces that you still don't see women in, you still don't see queer folks in. And so having someone, of white, that's a white person. You said white body, and so I feel like I need to say white body. I'm going to say white people.
Go for it.
Having,
no censoring here.
White women in these high positions can still bring up some imposter syndrome. So I'm not going to deny that. However, I think it's incredibly different when we're talking about a friend of mine as a queer Black woman and a cisgender heterosexual white woman. Like I think the intensity of imposter syndrome or how we limit ourselves is much different because of that intersectionality.
Yeah, that's so well said. And I appreciate the clarity around both how I misquoted you, but also about how I don't want to, I say this frequently, I don't want to deny anybody their struggle. This is not oppression Olympics. I'm not trying to marginalize people who have previously experienced being marginalized. And having said that, to echo what you said, I also want to acknowledge the distinct and extensive difference, because the white-bodied person can walk through the world differently in a way that seems like more access to privilege, even when they do come from a marginalized community of sorts. It's not based on the color of their skin. And I appreciate that distinction. So thank you for the clarity and the distinction.
Yeah. You just said it, and something came up in me. I really do not like that term, oppression Olympics. I really don't like it, and I know that it's just a common term, but it's essentially saying that people should not talk about how their struggle is different than someone else's struggle, and so which is this argument of BIPOC versus Black.
Yeah.
Right. And so to name that my ancestors didn't struggle like other folks' ancestors isn't oppression Olympics. It's the truth.
Yeah, no,
His
I
name
hear
and our
that.
struggle is not the same. And maybe Oppression Olympics is used in like different contexts, but when I
Yeah.
hear it, it's just like,
No, I feel
okay,
you. I feel you on that trigger. It depends on whose mouth it comes out of, to be perfectly honest with
true. That is very
you. I
true.
gotta be
That's
honest with
very
you.
true.
Like,
That's very true.
when I'm talking to white bodies, I don't call it master's program. You know what I'm saying? I went to graduate school. It's just things
Yeah.
like that I
Yeah. Yeah.
language differently. So I think that's where I'm coming from, and I totally appreciate
Yeah.
that
Got you.
pushback. People need to hear another perspective always. Okay, so you go in on the political aspect of being a therapist, which I can't get enough of, because therapy is not neutral, and I'm sick of people acting like it is neutral. And so, you ask, is it possible for a social worker to be a Republican? I just smiled when you said that. So say more about
Yeah, so a little while ago, actually, back when that man was in the White House, you know the man,
that. Oh, yeah. Hey, talk
45.
about trauma.
Yeah, which is, yeah. I posted something that said, if you are a Trump supporter and a social worker, you're not really a social worker.
Mm.
And one of my highest liked and commented posts, by the way. But it was baffling the number of people who were saying, "Oh no, I support Trump. Yes, you can be a Trump supporter and a social worker. Like, yes, you." And I was just like that's. I expected the support. I did not expect so much pushback. And so then I'm thinking, oh, like if you're aligned with the values of this man who he's blatantly racist, ableist, homophobic, transphobic, like he's openly. And you're like, oh no, yeah, that's my guy.
I mean,
Oh.
talk about cognitive dissonance.
And so, another thing that I did in this keynote was I actually posted a post and I said to followers, what are some of the most problematic things that a therapist or a mental health professional has ever said to you? And had to be over 260 comments
Wow.
around how just some people have said some horrific things, including referring for conversion therapy for queer folks, including suggesting an 11-year-old go on the keto diet to improve her self-esteem, right? So fat phobia is in there, including denying that someone needs therapy because evidence-based practice says that they actually don't need it based on what's going on in their life. And I'm just like, whoa. And so all of these things have to do with an individual's moral compass. And each of our moral compasses are going to be shaped by our environment, by our family, by our education, by our location, and by our politics. And so if you have governor in Florida saying no critical race theory, no drag performances, trans people are criminalized, and you're like, oh yeah, I rock with that guy. And then you come in and you have a client who's queer, who's a person of color. What do you now say to them? During the summer of rage, when you have, I'm forgetting which black
I
person
mean,
was murdered by
you don't even
police.
have to name names because it's constant. So you go for it.
George Floyd is
Yeah, George Floyd.
the big one I was thinking about. You have that happening and like there's civil unrest and you have a black male client and a white woman saying, well, but do you think the protests and them burning everything is appropriate though? Aren't they just being a bit too sensitive? Right? That therapist is doing harm. One, you're denying my experience. And two, you're gaslighting me as if I should not feel the way that I should feel based on your moral compass.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why we really have to look at the backgrounds of therapists, because if there's a religious like if it's a religious therapist, you got to figure out, okay, is this like a progressive religious therapist or is this someone who's going to say it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it's if they're a white woman, right? Like I always encourage folks who are seeking therapists to ask all of the questions. Ask all of the ask who you voted for in that 2020 election.
Yeah.
Ask what you think about the Black Lives Matter movement.
Mm-hmm.
Ask what you think about Palestine. Right? Like all of these things, because all of those things are going to inform me as a client if we're aligned. And if we're not aligned, then I don't want to work with you.
Absolutely. So you said something first of all, that was perfectly stated. Thank you so much. So clear. You said something about, and I can appreciate this because I work from the same lens, like essentially I'm not for everyone. And
Yeah.
I'm always so respectful of the people who choose to work with me because I am who I am in practice, as authentic as who I am in humanity. And so who are you not for?
um, as a therapist or just
Yes.
as a human?
Whatever.
I'm not for people who are too serious. We are going to laugh in my sessions
Mhm.
at some point. I'm not for someone who is Republican or conservative. I mean, there are also Democratic folks who lean conservative. Not for them either. Who am I not for? I'm not for folks that are super strict in their problematic views.
Mhm.
I am not for individuals who are not open to trying something and not open to being, real about what their experience is. During my consultation calls, I tell people, I challenge my clients. It's never in a way that's rude or disrespectful, but I'm gonna challenge you because us, especially us, we're very good at making things seem like they're not as bad as they are,
Oh, that's what we've been
or
taught by white supremacy.
making every start to my session, I have them pull out that feelings wheel and say, and I ask them, how are you feeling? Because good isn't gonna cut it. Don't
Oh,
say
I love it.
they know. Don't say good because I'm gonna look right back at you until I'm gonna say, you want the wheel? We're not going anywhere until you tell me a feeling. And so I'm not for folks who don't want to be uncomfortable. You're going to be uncomfortable in all of the best ways because growth is uncomfortable. But you're going to be uncomfortable. It will you will not remain the same person even in one session with me when you start with me versus when you finish. Something will be like, even if it's the tiniest bit, something's going to be different.
I appreciate that. And I agree. Is it different for who you are not for in your personal life? Because that sounds pretty universal. Um,
No.
okay. Okay. Just
No.
because you said personally or professionally, and I'm like, I don't see how that can change personally. So,
I mean, I have some, and I'm not going to say that all of my friends or all of the folks in my village are the same. I mean, I have one of my good friends is married to a cop. And
oof.
so I got to either have conversations or don't have conversations.
You better
one of
than me.
my one of my friends, she, used to say, basically when these murders of unarmed black men were starting, she was on the side of, they shouldn't have broke the law.
Oh,
And so we had to have conversations, but she gets it, and so I think for me, and some people I've had to just let go
yeah.
because we are not aligned. And you know what? That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. We were for each other during a certain time, and I'm grateful for that time. But right now, the ways in which we're both growing, we're not growing, we're not aligned, and that's okay.
Yeah. I think for sure that has to do with an age group,
Hmm.
this more progressive way of being able to be, again, as an elder, like I just don't have time for anybody who's not aligned. I don't. You can be over here, over there, outside of the view of the camera. but you can't be right here.
Right.
You know?
That's fair.
So
Oh yeah, everybody who's here. Oh yeah, we're aligned.
yeah,
Everybody who's here.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
for
fair,
sure. For
fair.
those other folks, it's just like,
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you on that. You said my ancestors already paid for this school debt.
yeah, one of my favorites.
Say that. Say that.
Um, I mean, I think in the caption I put like to demand money from Black folks for indigenous folks for educate for anything really. Let's be honest, for literally anything. I personally think is criminal. You know, the wealth, the power, the influence that so many white folks have was because of enslaved Africans. Like, imagine, imagine having a job, but having someone else do that job for you, and you just do whatever the fuck you want
Yeah.
for decades, for centuries. Imagine you just living pretty while someone else doing all the work. And you just keep amassing wealth continuously, generations, because someone else is doing the work for you. And then you want to blame Black and brown folks for not working hard enough now? You just had people doing your job for centuries. Make it make sense. So, and then for the Native Americans, they just legitimately killed them, right? So like killed and stole their land, right? And so this is reparations for me. I'll say it today. You know, I'm not gonna say that publicly, but
Oh, you know, I wish
my
you
loans,
would.
my loans gonna be there. I'm just gonna say that.
Good
You
call.
know,
Good call not saying that.
yeah. It's. I just had a man, Chris Lodgson, on an IG Live to talk about reparations and the reparations task force that they have in California right now. And they're doing incredible work. And they're trying to calculate how much money each individual should get. And I heard roughly it's like $300,000 per person. I think that is a incredible underestimate of what we should get. But I'm not gonna, I mean, look, if you want to give me $300,000, I'm gonna take it. Don't get me wrong. But you know, I think that, you know, we as a society can't even agree on the truth of the past of this country. Some people are trying to rechange the narrative of history. And so you rechange the narrative of history, then we all start on equal playing fields. So
Yeah.
like, so why would anyone need reparations? Why would we owe anyone anything? Right? It is all intentional. And so that's why I go so hard. It's like, you cannot, even, and similarly why I started Black Social Work Week. Even as social workers, we as Black therapists, as Black helpers and healers, we do not navigate the world the same way as our white counterparts, as our Latinx counterparts. And so we really have to, you know, there are certain things that we're owed. I'm gonna just say that. There are certain things that we're owed, and they're not gonna give it to us. And sometimes we just got to make it. We just got to either take it or make it work.
Appreciate that. Can't add anything. All right, I want to get into your TED Talk, but I have one more question before I do. I saw on your Insta that you are doing music. Well, first of all, Black Social Work Week. Where was I? I missed that altogether. So
It's only 2 years old, so next
Okay.
year, you know, it'll be a thing.
okay, I'll be there next year. In my year of hopeful retirement, I'll be there.
Yes, come on, retirement.
But the other thing that I saw was that you're hosting Music Therapy Monday. Talk about that.
Yes. So, when, you know, melanated social work was a thing, I was actually doing what was it called? Med. Oh my God, I'm forgetting the name of it. Mindfulness, Melanated Mindfulness Mondays.
Okay.
Ooh, yeah. And so it was just a space where I would invite another therapist on. They would lead me and, everyone else in something therapeutic. And it was really great, but I was doing it weekly and it was a lot, like navigating, getting therapists, navigating kind of the behind the scenes stuff, and then actually doing the live thing for it. And it was only 30 minutes, but all of it was a lot of work. And so I was thinking like, I really, I love music. So just like music in general, especially live music of almost any genre is like my happy place. And I, am blessed to know a lot of really good singers. And I also know that there are a lot of singers out there that are still struggling from like the pandemic, right? Like they weren't able to perform, in live shows and, make music in the same ways.
Sure.
And so, I thought that it would be a good opportunity to have it as this therapeutic space, similar to like a tiny desk kind of thing where you just have 30, an artist just has 30 minutes to just go.
That's awesome.
And so for them, they get a platform, and I know my platform isn't the biggest platform, but they get a platform where they can be seen. And then we get to enjoy the music. we get to enjoy the therapy. And also therapy it's therapeutic for the folks performing as well. Right. So there's this kind of mutual give therapy, receive therapy kind of thing going on. That's the hope anyway. So the first one was really great. One of my good friends, Renice, came and just like beautiful voice. And then the next one will be March 27th. And another woman that I know, Anjani, she's gonna do real well. Yeah. So
That's amazing.
I'm excited.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I appreciate when I saw that. It's like, oh, that's so dope. So I wanted to make sure we mentioned it. Okay, the TED Talk. Let's get to it. So how did it come about and why? Why was it important for you?
Yeah. Social media in this pandemic was a wild time. But I think for me, it opened up a lot of opportunities. I was very active, and not only on Instagram, but on Clubhouse. I don't know if folks remember Clubhouse.
Yeah.
But I think it's still a thing, but
Yeah, it's
I'm not
still
on
a thing. Not the thing it was, but a thing.
Yeah. And so I was in a room, and there was a gentleman who was an ex-NFL player on stage. And so anytime there's anyone that's like, either I want to connect with in the future, or I want them to like hear my voice for whatever reason, I'm going to find something to say. And so I got, asked a question or said a comment or something like that, and mentioned that I was, working with athletes. Now, half true. I wasn't, at the time I wasn't. So the person that I was working with was a professional athlete, but he was transitioning into retirement. And I think I didn't lie, but I think I led people to believe that I was currently working with professional athletes. Nonetheless,
That's so perfect. You younger people, man, you are good. You are good.
listen, I like to use my words in certain ways. So I ended up connecting with him, Reggie Walker, who actually has just a phenomenal story. We actually had him on the Melanated Social Work podcast as well. Really good episode. But connected with him, had him on the podcast, and he was just like, "Hey, if you want to do a TED Talk, I can connect you to the guy that runs it." And I was like, "Yes." No idea what I was going to talk about. I was like, yes, TED Talk, sure. And so he connected me to the guy. I met with him. He was like, well, we have one in Wilmington, Delaware. It was about a year from, when the actual date was going to be. And I was just like, all right, I got a year. When you have that much time, it's like, I got time. And then it goes down and down, and you look up and it's 6 months, then it's 4 months, and it's just like, oh shit, that is next month, isn't it? And so I know I wanted to talk about this, the topic that I chose. I didn't know how. I was just like, there's so many pieces to it, like, and it's only I think the max is maybe 18 minutes for the talk, and so there's like, how am I going to tell this story? How am I going to have this like in this time frame? Also, how am I going to remember all of this? Because for folks that know me, my memory is not the best. If my calendar didn't exist, I don't know what my life would be. But so all of these things were looming. So one random Sunday is my self-care day, but I was just like, you know what? I have this energy in me. I have something in me that just is telling me to write. And so I just write. I just type for probably like an hour, maybe hour and a half. And I have this just narrative. And so I'm like, okay, so I typed that. It's maybe 3 months out. I typed that, did not look at it for another month, because as I typed it, it was also like an outpour of all these things that like I've kind of held in or only talked about in therapy. And so I'm like, oh crap, it's 2 months away. I should probably look at this. So I share it with a bunch of my friends, a bunch of folks in my closest community, who really know me, who know the story, who know, like, they know everything. And so had them look at it, had them give me some pointers, maybe add some things, take some things out, all that stuff. So then I record it, vocally. And so it comes in at maybe like 16 minutes. And I'm just like, perfect. And so that would just happen organically. I don't know how, but like ancestors, God, spirit, whatever you want to call it. I think I had some help there. I had a bunch of friends and family come to town to watch, which also provided an extra layer of like, yes, I love this, but also I'm also more terrified now because like my mama's in the audience, like, so I'm just like, oh, she gonna hear everything. But it was fantastic. I did the talk. Allegedly, I got a standing ovation. I was so emotional after that I just kind of like went to that side room and had a good cry for a bit and just breathed and we went off to to do a podcast right after. But yeah, it was so liberating. It was so liberating. It was so therapeutic. It was so nice to be emotionally and physically held by my community after, and then the rest of the weekend was great with those folks too. Yeah, so it was a phenomenal experience. I'm really glad that I did it. And it was so also the part that I forget about is that like people are gonna listen to it.
Yeah, right, right.
And then people are gonna like see themselves or see their experience in my story. And so then I was getting messages and comments saying like I was diagnosed, during this time, or, I had I'm currently having the same experience of like trying to figure out who I am in this super homophobic environment, or just, all of these stories, of like how my story really, just helped their process, or just at the end of the day, help them feel seen.
Congratulations again. I mean, it's I'm so happy for you. I really am so happy for you, and I'm happy for everyone who's going to listen to it, because it's going to be something that needs to be heard and seen. So I'm going to leave it at that and let people experience it for themselves. As we're wrapping up, a couple more questions. One is, where can everyone find you? And just lay it all out, every platform right here.
Yeah, so I live in Philadelphia currently. So I have LinkedIn is my name, Marvin Toliver. I'm on Twitter at mtoliver_LCSW. I'm not really on Twitter like that though, to be honest. And then Instagram, obviously, I'm at mtoliver_LCSW. I also have a website, which is marvintoliver.com. Yeah, so definitely tap in if you want to know more, if you want to learn more, if you want to work with me, all them things.
So you're taking new clients?
I maybe. So here's I mean, and quickly, I'm moving kind of more from an individual therapy kind of mindset to more of like training, facilitation, consultation, groups. I love groups, and yes, I have space for new clients, but we'll see.
Okay. Yeah, just leave
see.
it open. Leave it open.
Yeah.
You know, take 5 people and turn it into a group.
That is true.
You know, I think you should emphasize the link tree because everything's connected to that. Right?
Oh yeah.
So say the link tree again, because that's the best link.
Well, the link tree is, on Instagram when you look at the bio, and then there's the little link tree link, and so that link connects to the Smithsonian YouTube link. It connects to the TEDx Talk. It connects to the website. I do have merch. I have new merch coming out soon. It also connects to if you want to donate. I do a lot of labor on social media, and a lot of people say that they learn a lot, that they get a lot from it. And so if you get a lot from it, go ahead and give me some money for it.
If you get, give.
I mean, and essentially, I'm probably going to donate it to something else anyway. So
yeah, well, that's what we do. That's what we do. It's how we move through the world. Okay, final question. Okay, in one of your posts, you clown theory, and you said something to the effect of theory versus clients truly feeling heard is essentially problematic. I'm going to give you the final word on that before we end.
I think that a lot of the time in mental health care, we lean too much on theory. We lean too much on the DSM. We lean too much on this evidence-based practice. And in my experience with kids, with adults, it's really about that connection with the client. It's really about them being able to trust you, them being able to feel safe with us, to open up about all of the deepest, darkest things that they, typically hold on to. And so theory doesn't teach us how to hold space. Theory doesn't teach us how to be relational. Right? Theory doesn't teach us what do you say to your client after they've experienced grief, and now you're in a session, and now what? Right? Theory doesn't teach you that level of how to connect and just being in space and just having almost like, and it sounds kind of cheesy, but almost like spirits aligning, almost. Mm-hmm. Right? There's no theory that can really teach you that.
I appreciate that. I do want to offer one little sort of adjustment there, which is not everybody can hold everybody safe.
Very true.
Okay. Because I don't want clinicians thinking, oh, if I just desire to create safety for people, poof, it happens. No, that's not what you're saying. I want to clarify.
Not at all.
It's not a correction. It's clarification. That is not what you're saying.
Thank you.
Marvin A. Toliver, thank you so much for your time, sharing 2 episodes with me. You're truly a fascinating human being. I appreciate the work you're doing. I appreciate you in the community, and I appreciate you as kinfolk. I mean, I really see you, and I want you to know that what you do is valued. And, my seeking retirement feels slightly comforted in knowing that the legacy lives on with people like yourself. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean that. I mean that from the heart. So,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, stay connected. All right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Okay. Take care.
You too.
Bye.